Hello and welcome to this last live event in the Crypto Adoption Week. Today we will have a combined live event with the Norwegian findings and also with the Nordic findings. So we will move and start with the Norwegian one from about around 11 to around 12:30, and then we will continue with the Nordic ones, with a break in between, but just stay online because there will not be a second session. We are going through the same session. And this is quite fun because in this year we have had Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and Finland, which is the second year that we have numbers from those countries. And this year we also have numbers from Iceland. So now we can start comparing the countries in between. We can start comparing with what happened last year, and we can also view it on a Nordic level. And we also, in this live event, we will also have some talks that will give or try to find some type of alignments between these kind of customer data with tax data, and we even have some thoughts about on-chain data later in this broadcast. So just keep following, and we will try to illuminate the data and try to let you be more enlightened in this regard. And we are doing this event together with Nordic Blockchain Association. The other organizers are K33 and me representing Kauper as a media company. And maybe you then, Jakob, could tell a little about what is Nordic Blockchain Association and how do you view the importance of getting these kinds of data, supporting all types of conversations to media, to politicians or whatever.
Of course, thank you very much for hosting this, Morten. So Nordic Blockchain Association is a non-profit organization that has been existed for now 8 years. It's created and for people working within the blockchain industry, Web3, ledger technology, and a broader setup around that. And we operate in the Nordic region. We do a lot of meetups. We do a conference. And I think the important part for us is to have transparency in data, right? Like we need to create awareness with real facts. So for us, being part of a report where we, in a statistic way, can go through each country, we can compare the countries and have data year over year is extremely important. And in our work, and I think in the industry work, like this is, of course, for company operating, it's extremely important to understand how many people are using it, what's the behavior, but as well in the dialogues that we have with public elected or we have with ministries, reports like this is extremely important. In NBA, we have some different working groups. One of them is legal. And the past year in Denmark, we had a really good dialogue with the ministries and public elected to create a more sustainable, better law for crypto asset and new technologies. And we actually used the findings from last year's report in this work, and we're going to use the new numbers as well. So important, and reports like this is just extremely important. So we're really happy to be part of it, and really happy to basically see that so many people have helped out this year with all the partners that have been part of this.
And you are also, as you mentioned, doing events across the Nordics. And what is the most important event this year?
So for us, it's like we have ongoing work in the steering committees, and we do these monthly meetups around the Nordic region. But we as well, for the 7th year in a row, do a big, large conference. This year, we're doing it in Stockholm. There's going to be around 1,000 participants. And this is where we as an industry meet in person, but as well, this is where we include policymakers, companies, consumers. So this is kind of the year of the event of the year where everything is tied up. I'm really excited for it.
Yes, and then we thank you very much then, Jakob. We will then go on and introduce the people that has crunched the data, and which is Magnus Jones and Vetle Lunde. And yeah, you are here. Just a minute. I have to make sure that Vetle is on board. There he is. Yeah. Um, we have had different live events. We have different reports: Sweden, Denmark, Finland, and Iceland. And what can we expect today, Vetle?
Well, the key value in like this Norwegian survey is that it contextualizes what's happened in the rest of the Nordics over the past many years. In Norway, we have the luxury of having done this survey since 2018. So we have a lot of data to look back on when it comes to comparisons. For the rest of the Nordics, we expanded the survey last year and then included Iceland this year. But I think the activity that has happened in Norway in the past and relative changes would be consistent with the rest of the Nordics because it's very cyclical. It tends to follow the market. So that's one of the reasons why it makes sense to include Norwegian data here in the overall Nordic comparison. And then in terms of what to expect this year, I can give some spoilers and say that there are all-time high numbers to be shown to you guys, and adoption is growing at a very solid rate in Norway.
And in about 1.5 hours, or maybe a little shorter than that, we will also show the Nordic results. And do you have any comments on that, Magnus?
Yeah, I think we have some exciting Nordic numbers in total here, and like we had on the Wednesday broadcast when we covered Finland, which was referred to as both New Year's and Christmas Eve packed in one big present together. I think we will leverage further on that mantra on some of these areas for sure. So I'm much looking forward now to get into this one.
So then you can take it over, Vetle and Magnus, and I will come back when we are trying to introduce some people from the different panels and maybe also have a couple of questions to you guys. So good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, so as already explained, the Norwegian survey has many more data points than the rest of the Nordic countries since we have done it ever since 2018. We have done it in all instances together with Norstat to get a representative panel of people from all kinds of social classes, age groups, and also to get a diverse geographical and gender-based panel. So this gives us very solid data to compare year-over-year changes and where we are in terms of adoption right now. As with the rest of the Nordics, we have asked 4 questions to all respondents: whether or not they own cryptocurrencies, whether or not they believe they will own cryptocurrencies in the future, and if they do own cryptocurrencies, we have asked them what value they have in cryptocurrencies right now, and then which platforms they use to buy or sell cryptocurrencies. All in all, this gives us an understanding of current ownership rates, how common it is to own and participate in crypto in Norway, but also habits and sizes, which is relevant for both the industry where people trades and also tax authorities and the general public. How much value is it that has found its way from Norwegian bank accounts into this sector? So enough about the formality. It's time to get straight to the numbers. Norwegian crypto adoption has reached a new all-time high as of March 2025. 12% of the Norwegian respondents indicated that they own Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies. That's compared to 9% last year and 8% the year before. We finally surpassed the March 2022 peak of 10%, and it generally shows that adoption trends in Norway tends to be cyclical and follow the overall crypto market. When it's booming markets, more owners get to the space, which is an interesting observation. What's new this year is that we are seeing the most substantial adoption rate happening among more seasoned adults, people aged 30 to 39 and above, see very high ownership rates. And we believe that this is a result of the ongoing institutionalization of crypto, with BlackRock launching their ETFs and banks entering the space, in addition to promising regulatory developments and political tailwinds from the US. In terms of diversity and age, it's still young males who dominate, but we are seeing solid growth both in terms of female adoption and also, as said, within the older age cohorts. In absolute numbers, this increase from 2024 to 2025 translates to 160,000 new Norwegian crypto owners. Current Norwegian ownership is estimated to 550,000 Norwegians. It's very solid and high compared to previous figures, and as mentioned, we are at new all-time highs.
And when we look into the age group of where we have had growth or decline, we have seen in the previous service this week that it has, to a certain tendency, been a younger generation who has led the pathway. However, what we see of a trend in Norway now is that actually the largest growth comes into the category of 30 to 39 years, and we see a similar growth in the category 40-49 years, with 7% up to 15%, and even in the category of 50 to 59 years, we go from 3 to 9%, and also the 60 plus. So we see also in some other countries, like we saw in Sweden, that we will get back to later in this broadcast, that there is a older generation that is now making a shift. That might be for the reasons that Vetle has briefly described, that we see the banks, the TradFi, financial institutions coming into this one in a different way. We have MiCA regulations, we have other elements that I'm also much looking forward to discuss further with the panel afterwards. And if we look into here, the crypto ownership figures, when it comes to this classic slide that we unfortunately only have numbers for Norway for, where we have compared the numbers of persons in Norway that we know from public numbers who has and owns stocks and shares and ordinary equity, and compare that to the numbers of people who owns crypto. We have now split that in two types of categories. We have on the left side under the age of 40, and on the right side over the age of 40. So if you look into the brackets there, we actually have seen now, and we still see, that under the age of 40 in Norway, there are now, since 2021, for every consecutive years, more people who has crypto compared to ordinary stocks and shares. This is just measured towards one-to-one towards the numbers of people, not measured directly towards a value or so. But we see that there's estimately 330,000 persons who owns crypto in Norway under the age group of 40 years old in this year's survey, while it's 240,500 who own stocks and shares. If you look into the graph on the right side, the age group over 40 years, we see that from the year 21, 22, 23, 24, it appears to be almost the same person there in that age group that has owned crypto on the black brackets. That has been flat on around 100,000. However, this year we see a significant growth, and this is also, as we saw on the previous slide, correlated to that we have seen an older age group also moving into crypto in some matters. So right now, that has more than doubled, up to 220,000 people in the age group over 40 years who now owns crypto, while it is still a stronger presence on the stocks and share. And naturally, but we might see a tendency towards a shift on this area as well. So we are working on getting numbers from the other Nordic countries. So we will update that as soon as we get the numbers. But right now, as said, we only have these numbers for Norway, but we have looked into different other countries also, and we see similar patterns towards our findings here as well. So this is not something that we believe is only unique for Norway, but it's representative in Nordics in general. And the ratio between men and women is a key thing in this industry. It has been dominated by men for several years. And this is not only relating to Norway, not the Nordics, but globally in general. And what we see here in Norway is that this year, among the whole of the Norwegian population, 17% of men owns crypto, while we have had a significant increase in the numbers for female, up to 7%. So it means that approximately 30% of all Norwegian crypto owners are female. And this is something that is very interesting to look into from the diversity perspective, that we for sure should also discuss with the panelists afterwards. And as we have also mentioned on all the previous broadcasts, Kauper has done a great broadcast on this area, where it was a 8th of March broadcast lasting for a couple of hours, where we really dwelled into the details and the reasoning for one other way of why there are challenges and the possibilities and everything. So I will not spend more time on this right now, but leave it for the panel and leave it for you, if you're interested to hear more about this in depth, to go to Kauper to look into that specific broadcast. And if we compare the gender numbers from the male on the left side to the female on the right side, we see that we have had naturally a steady growth going up to where we are. So it's been a little volatile, and it might be also correlated towards, call it the so-called bull years, where Bitcoin has peaked in terms of our top value, and people have gone in and out. But these are just, some metrics of indication. So again, we're very happy to discuss this one further with the panel in the end of this one.
When it comes to how many Norwegians believe they will buy crypto within the next decade, we have seen a small but relevant size increase compared to last year. This year, 26% of the population indicated that they would buy crypto within the next decade, whereas last year that figure came in at 24%. This suggests that the Norwegian sentiment is a bit milder than what we saw in Denmark and Finland, but it's higher rates than the ones seen in both Sweden and Iceland. So it puts Norwegian sentiment in the middle of the pack, all the while ownership ratios are at high levels compared to the rest of the Nordics. And many of the respondents believe they will buy crypto already within this year, with 10% of the respondents in the survey indicating that they will buy crypto this year, and then a further 6% expects to buy within the next 3 years. So it suggests that there are demand to add exposure in the years to come, but it's milder than the one witnessed in particularly Finland and Denmark. When we look at this data from various cohorts in terms of age and genders, we can see that while young crypto owners declined this year compared to previous readings, the willingness or indications of wanting to buy crypto in the future rose compared to last year. So it might suggest that for young adults, the relatively high cost of living has limited abilities to invest in crypto right now, while there still remains a substantial demand to invest in crypto in the future. And we see a falling trend here of starting from 30 to 39, that the older you are, the less inclined you are to believe that you will own crypto in the future. But still, as many as 1/3 of the population within the 40 to 49 year age bracket expects to buy crypto within the next decade. And looking at this from a gender perspective, we can see that males in general tends to be more inclined to buy crypto in the future, with 32% of respondents indicating that they foresee a crypto purchase in the next decade, whereas only 1/5 of female respondents indicated the same. And then going back to the chart here on the left, we have, as in other Nordic countries, used the raw data to assess whether or not those who currently own intends to buy in the future, or those who currently do not own intends to buy in the future. So this is compiled here. We can see that as many as 6% of current holders expects to buy more in the next year, which suggests that many Norwegians apply a strategy of buying cryptocurrencies over time consistently. And also a material 3.5% of current non-owners intends to buy within this year, and a further 4% intends to buy within the next 3 years. So just based on this, 7% new crypto owners may appear in the market in the next 3 years if people commit to what they have indicated in this survey.
And when we look into where do people prefer to do their purchases, sales, and trading, there's one graph that points out very well here, and that's Firi, who has 46% of the answers. And naturally, the answers here is a multiple choice, i.e. you don't only necessarily prefer to have one exchange, but you can buy and sell and trade on both Norwegian and international ones. So that's why the numbers here do not necessarily match up to 100 in some matter. We would also like to stress, naturally, that the survey is carried out by 1,000 respondents, which Vetle said, this is a normal way to carry out surveys. However, when we look into, call it the percentage, there is naturally a smaller percentage that is being asked specifically on this question. However, what we have seen from the different years is that we see similarities towards the patterns here. We also see that in the different other Nordic countries where there's a different variation, but the variation tends to be the same from year to year. So that's why we have a good and clear, historically at least, a comparison towards that this data appears to be at least correct from the survey point of view of the person that is being asked in some matter. So Firi has increased actually from 37% to 46% now. NBX and Bitcoin is approximately at the same place. Other Norwegians grow a little, while Coinbase, as one of the largest international ones, has actually decreased. And we have seen that trend also in other Nordic countries. So they have gone from 27% down to 18%. And similar, it has been a small decrease for Binance from last year from 17 to 15%. While the same has been seen for eToro, going from 7 to 3% here. And the other international ones has gone from 15 to now 18% and grown a little. Looking into the DeFi market in general, I think we see the same as other places, not only in the Nordics, but also globally, that a rule of thumb is that approximately 10% of the persons who has crypto assets are into DeFi or NFT of some kind of way, and it represents pretty well in terms of also what we see here from the survey. We should also just mention just briefly on the last, if you pick one back on the ETP ETF side, that's something that we have seen a strong growth on in general in some Nordic countries. So it will be now exciting to compare that one, because that's also a part of the whole of the industry where the exchange traded funds, i.e. you purchase a stock ownership where there's underlying crypto assets, so we don't purchase the crypto asset directly. That might also be a product that is appealing to an older generation, and why we have seen in general a growth in these type of asset classes in combination with regulation that facilitates and enhance that you can actually buy and purchase. So it will be interesting to also discuss this one further with the panelists afterwards. And as said, when we break down these numbers, Norwegian crypto owners now has now for the first time surpassed the preference of actually trading domestically on local exchanges compared to using the larger foreign ones that classically has been Coinbase, Binance, Kraken, etc. So we've seen from the previous years of 23 and 24 that it's been quite significant higher in terms of preferring the foreign ones, while now, as said, we have surpassed it on the national ones, and we should also pay notice to see the smaller bracket of the ETPs, the ETFs, that is also slowly growing and getting a position. So on this area, I'm also much looking forward to how these numbers actually will look next year.
Yeah, and to add to that, like when we see relative percentage declines in international exchanges, we have to remember that the population of crypto owners in Norway has expanded. So while Coinbase percentage-wise is declining, since it's relatively more crypto owners, the international presence holds relatively firm. But when we look at the new participants in the market, and we look at both changing growth rates of domestic exchanges such as Firi, we can see that it's really the domestic exchanges that has taken a vast amount of the new users, and this is where new users in Norway has preferred to conduct their trades. And then another question that was asked to current crypto owners shows a very interesting dynamic compared to last year. As you will see from the blue bars, it more or less resembles what you have seen in the other presentations for the rest of the Nordics, if you remember those. But here we have the luxury of comparing with last year's data. This question was not included in the other surveys. But what we can see here is sort of a price appreciation effect hitting Norwegians. Last year, it was more common to own crypto for less than 1,000 kroners than owning crypto for between 1,000 kroners and 10,000 kroners. With the price appreciation over the past year, we have seen these bars move. And now 1,000 to 10,000 Norwegian kroners is the most common area to be at if you are a crypto owner in Norway and you have some exposure to crypto. And it's just like in any other Nordic countries where the typical owner does not hold a lot of crypto, but there are sizable owners who hold substantial amounts of crypto exposure, which skews this income or crypto wealth distribution towards the few that holds a lot. We have done estimates on how many people these percentages translates to, and we can see that holders within the 100,000 and above category is more or less stable compared to last year, whereas we see an increase in the other wealth brackets apart from the less than 1,000 Norwegian krone bracket. Based on these numbers, we can, as we have done in other Nordic countries, make some estimates on crypto wealth within the Norwegian population. Here, as in the other surveys, we have emulated Norges Bank's approach of estimating the median wealth within each cohort of value held in crypto. So we do this by, for instance, multiplying the number of Norwegian holders holding between 1,000 to 10,000 kroners with the median value within that category. So here it's 5,500 kroners multiplied by 235,000 people, which lands us on 1.3 billion Norwegian kroners. We can see it's a very fat tail here of big whales in Norway. It represents an outlier, so it might lead to some overestimation. But in keeping in mind Norges Bank's estimate last year of 35 billion NOK being held by Norwegian owners, we think this is a relatively fair crypto wealth estimate. We can also add that we didn't do this exercise last year, but we have done so now with last year's numbers. So we have some interesting comparisons to the reported crypto wealth last year and our estimated crypto wealth last year. That can be a good and useful number to keep in mind when we discuss taxes and crypto taxes in Norway. And then this chart also compares Aksje Norge's numbers to our estimated crypto numbers. So where we see that the amount of crypto owners is starting to catch up to the amount of individual shareholder owners. It's still some big differences in terms of wealth committed to these different investment products. Approximately 61 billion kroners is held in cryptocurrencies compared to 192 billion kroners held by retail investors in equity in Norway.
And like Vetle briefly touched upon here, the element of taxes. That's a classic thing that is connected definitely towards the crypto industry, and specifically the period where we are in now, where we are to file our annual tax returns. And due to the fact that we hand in our tax return 1 year later, we naturally don't have any numbers in terms of how many persons who has reported for this year's numbers service in terms of finding for the 24. So we need to look into that and place it into last year's figures. So on last year's figures, it was, as we can see, 54,000 persons in Norway who reported crypto to the tax authorities. And in so matter, that can seem a very small number if you look into the black bracket there, that is much higher. However, if we break down these numbers and we see the trend here from 2017, 18, 19 going up all the way here, that there's a significant smaller amount of person who has actually reported it compared to the estimated numbers of crypto owners. So if we break down these numbers here and go to the next, thank you, Vetle, then we actually see that on the left side here, we know that taxpayers in Norway, according to the official numbers from the tax authorities, reported crypto wealth for 17.3 billion Norwegian crowns. And if we take the numbers from relating to the survey last year that is connected towards the tax year 23, we have an estimated wealth of Norwegians who had crypto assets worth 23.69 billion Norwegian crowns. So that means, if we look into the side on the graph on the right side here, that little majority of persons or people, and we can also relate it to the little part that has more than a value of 500,000 Norwegian crowns in value, they are actually reporting, it seems like, and we are thereby not missing that much out. So we see that it's the difference between 23, estimately then, naturally, 23 billion and 17 billion, that leaves us for a 5-6 billion amount missing. So it's actually 73% of the crypto wealth that has de facto been reported when we measure it towards the numbers and don't only look ourselves blindly on the small percentage apparently of the 13.7% that has actually reported compared to all the owners. So it means that there might be lots of people who also then has smaller amounts of crypto, which we have seen on the slide and confirmed that for various different reasons are not reporting. And these reasons can either be that they don't want to naturally, but I think, like we will hear from Marius Johansen, the head of the Crypto Task Force group at the Task Force in Norway now, that there also might be that there are challenges connected towards this one and difficulties. So it might not only be the black and white that people are avoiding taxes, rather the opposite maybe that we see from this one. So by that, Vetle, if you are kind to make the summary, and we will have a chat with Marius straight after that.
Yes. So wrapping everything up, 12% of the Norwegian population owns crypto. It's a big increase from last year, meaning that Norwegian crypto owners now sum up to 550,000 individuals. We still see that men are more inclined to own crypto than females, but the female crypto ownership rate has grown to 7%, which is an all-time high and by far the strongest number in the Nordics. And the high female participation obviously contributes in making the high general participation in crypto push up. So it's great to have that diversity. It helps increasing also general Norwegian crypto ownership. And then we estimate the Norwegian crypto wealth to 61 billion Norwegian kroners, slightly less than $6 billion. And there are roughly 1/4 of the population who expects to buy crypto within the next decade, meaning that we can reach 1.2 million Norwegian crypto owners by 2035.
Thank you very much, Magnus and Vetle, for very interesting numbers, and we will get back to them in the different panels. And we have a tight schedule today, so I'm skipping some questions. But we also have the possibility for our viewers to comment, and there are a couple of comments from Hani and from Jonas in LinkedIn events that we hopefully will get back to later today. But now we want to welcome Marius Johansen to the stage from Skatteetaten, and we'll have a small chat about how can we understand these trends, which is based on surveys related to what you see in the tax authorities. Are they aligned, or how do you view these numbers, Marius?
First, thank you for the invite and thank you for sharing the numbers. It's really interesting to hear about. I think a lot of the things we see from the data from the tax return align a lot with the things Magnus said no. But we can see the same, that it's most people under the age of 40 that report owning crypto in the tax return. But we can see last year that it's increasingly, it's more people over the age of 40 that own cryptocurrency, if you see in the tax return. And you can also see that there is more women now reporting that they are owning cryptocurrency than earlier years. I think last year it was around 14% of the owners of crypto in tax return was actually women, and that's really interesting as well. And then another thing we can see is that most of the people have values for under 50,000 Norwegian kroners in the tax return. I think half of the reporting people have values for under 50,000 kroners, and that's what Magnus said as well. That's really interesting to hear about, and we can see some of the same findings in our data.
So do you agree with the sort of new way of viewing these numbers, that they are not necessarily a lot of money being frauded or not reported, if you understand, but because the most of the people that already have a good funding in crypto, they are reporting? Can it explain like that?
Yeah, I think we still think it's a big underreporting, but we see that the owners that have big values in crypto, they tend to comply more than owners with the smaller values, and that's the same what Magnus and Vetle said as well. But we still think there is a lot of underreporting, and hopefully the numbers should have been better, and hopefully it will be better for the next year. But as Magnus said, it's not as bad it seems like, but it should have been some better, I think.
But in that regard, you are doing some new activities. You are trying to help people understand how they are supposed to answer. I mean, you call it dulting, or you call it adulting in Norwegian, or nudging it in English, I would think. How do you find these people, and what are you doing?
Yeah, and nudging, we do it because we think that a lot of the people that do not comply with the tax regulation, we think that they actually want to comply, but they don't understand the tax regulation, or actually they don't know that they have to comply with the tax regulation when they have crypto assets. And how we do it when it's nudging, we just ask people if you have had crypto, for example, you have to report it, and then ask if you want to do it or not in the tax return. And then people could say yes or no if they want to comply. And the information we use could, for example, be information from all their tax returns that we see that you had crypto last year, and we nudge you on that information. But it could also be information that we have or gotten from other sources that we have in the tax administration that we use to nudge the owners and ask them whether they have crypto or not.
Have you anything to add to this, Magnus? Because you are also viewing the tax authorities in a lot of different countries and how they are working on it, and also, of course, related to international regulations or routines.
Indeed, I've been working with crypto and taxes for many years, and first of all, I would like to just enhance and send my gratitude to the Norwegian tax administration for being forward-leaning and having a dialogue with the industry for so many years. We don't need to go further to Sweden to see, call it, the opposite side of the challenges that arises there. So we see it so clearly in the Nordics and other countries also, that the dialogue with the industry is key, and that is something where Marius and the team has done a great job in terms of doing. So that's the first thing I would like to say. And naturally also people need to remember here that what we're talking about in most cases is on-chain data. It's on the blockchain, it's public available, and there you also have other parties. One party that is one of the ones who offering sort of the tracing, the clustering, the monitoring services, is one of the partners here, Chainalysis, that we will hear more about in the Nordic survey. And that's also where you can get indications towards other factors that can link towards Norway, etc., in terms of IP addresses, wallet addresses, and all of that part. So that's also part of the thing, and I'm not revealing the inner secrets of Marius teams now, so there's nothing secret surrounding it, but I think it's an important element and a message to send out to people that, you know, there's lots of things going on the back end side here that you apparently don't read or see about in the media. If you just have crypto for 1,000 Norwegian crowns and you think you can sit still and because no one sees you, I think it's rather the opposite, that you should also be aware of what is happening in terms of the national landscape now. And I get lots of, call it, being a community person and representing Nordic Blockchain Association. I hear from people all over Nordics, why this is so difficult, and now they want our wallet addresses, they want to see everything, oh my god, and they go straight into the throat of Marius and the team or the national teams, while we need to remember this is not something that the tax authorities per se in each country is just coming up with. Of course there can be an interest, but these are international tax rules that is coming. So we will get something called CARF right now, called Crypto Asset Reporting Framework, where also the exchanges will be obliged to actually submit data, not only to their own tax authorities, but also in an international exchange cooperation. So this is something that is going to be rolled out in the years from 2026 to 28. So this is just a friendly heads up to all people out there with crypto that these changes are coming, but it's not because of a local team of tax authorities in Norway, Sweden, or Denmark, or Finland, or Iceland that wants to dig into it. It's international tax rules that they have to follow, and this is what we have to cope with. So that's just the friendly heads up to say don't meet up at the door at Marius. It's not his fault. It is rather the international perspective that we need to try to do some policy making on, and that's also what we're trying to do in Nordic Blockchain Association, like for example in Denmark, where we had the so-called lagerbeskatning case. That was a huge challenge that the Nordic Blockchain Association played a key role in order to make certainty, clarity, and actually hold that side. So there's lots of different areas that we can make a difference on, but the difference is not made by shouting and saying this is unfair or whatever. We need to do it in a political way in order to succeed there. And again, I enhance what the job Marius and the team has been doing, because they have been cooperating, collaborating, and trying to make the best for everyone. So don't be afraid is my message, to reach out to Marius. It is rather the opposite, that it can be for your benefit to do so. So you should be lucky to be living in Norway compared to, say, in Denmark, to take one example.
Yes, and we will also dig more into these things in webinar about how you should answer your tax reporting, and hopefully we will also have Marius there as we had last year, and that will be broadcasted or told about next week, we can imagine. And we will also then continue with the panel list now. So we thank you very much, Marius, for your participation. And you can also read an article about the new numbers and the new local numbers, and even also what is dalting, what is nudging, on the Cooper news site. So thank you very much, Marius, and then we will keep going.
Thank you.
Then we are welcoming. There's some echo somewhere. Maybe it was me this time. Okay, we will see now that we have on board Tuk Huang, Stig from NBX, Sofia from Verse, and Torbjørn from K33. And I will give you then, Tuk, the pleasure to first tell you, the audience, who we are, what you're working on, and what is your responsibility. And then after that, we will take also a second round regarding the findings. So a short presentation first. Please, Tuk.
Thank you, Morten. Yeah, so my name is Tuk. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Firi. What I'm working on is building the largest exchange in the Nordics. So that's probably no secret. Yeah, I can start there. Thank you.
Then we can go on with you, Torbjørn.
Yes, so my name is, as you said, Torbjørn. I'm the founder of K33, and we are a broker letting people buy, sell, and hold cryptocurrency. And we target the larger clients, both larger private clients, but also corporate clients, institutional partners.
And then you, Stig. I think there are some echo here. Yeah. We can't hear you, Stig. Maybe we should go with you, Sofia, first, and then see if Stig can get back. Sofia?
Yeah, so I'm the only one not representing crypto exchange here. Representing Verse, strategy firm, Web3 strategy firm.
Okay, can we try again, Stig? No, there's no sound there. Okay, Stig is then the CEO of MBX, which is then also one of the largest crypto exchanges in Norway. But well, maybe we'll go and start now with you, Tuk. What is your impression of these findings out of your 5 cents or 10 cents? What do you think?
Yeah, so based on the numbers that we can see from various operators here in Norway, it's been pretty clear that we have been growing quite fast in a couple of years. The number itself from this report is always it's very fun to see. Of course, we are getting the numbers that we would like to get, but it's important to know that even though we are using so much time fighting against each other, the ones that's coming is actually not us, it's actually the banks. So for this type of numbers, it's always a good ego boost, but we are certainly not done with the work that we were doing. And yeah, it's very interesting to see all the type of numbers that you actually get, both on the text side, but also on male and female, because that's something that has been something that we've been focusing on.
What about you then, Torbjørn?
I think it's amazing to see that in Norway, cryptocurrencies has become mainstream. Of course, it's not the majority of people owning cryptocurrency, but it's a substantial portion of the adult population. It's also great to see strong growth among the older cohorts that have had historically very low ownership rates, and also strong growth rates among women, meaning that we are now starting slowly but surely to see a broader part of the whole society embracing cryptocurrency. And I believe in a future where cryptocurrencies become an important part of society, and that's only possible if this trend of broadening who participates continues. And it looks like together as an industry, we're doing a great job targeting our different niches, because Norway is leading the pack, which is also very fun to see.
Okay, the guys are sort of putting the ball in your near view, Sophia, maybe. And we have a question here from the community, Hani Balak, which has created a new podcast in Sweden, Women and Bitcoin, together with Rebecca. And she asked, when we compare the Nordic countries, what do you think is the reason why more women are getting into crypto in Norway, but not as much in the other Nordic countries? What is Norway doing that the rest of us aren't? And Sophia, you also have an overview of the tech side of these things, because you have been also mentioned as one of the 50 most knowledgeable female IT women. So what is your view about this?
So yeah, it was very nice of the Oda network, which is the largest women in tech network in the Nordics, who are every year handing out the top 50 women in tech in Norway award. And it was very nice to get that, and also getting the recognition that the technology we're working with, which is blockchain based, is becoming more mainstream, getting those actors on board as well. Having also been in spaces as the largest women conference in 2023, that was where we also handed out NFTs for everyone participating, and that was over 2,000 people in person being present there, also in collaboration with Oda Network. And I also believe that the Norwegian platforms such as Fire has also I've seen since our last talk that I also commented the UX and UI and the color, something as easy as the color choices being more gender neutral and not the traditional ones. K33 as well, going to more the lakserosa from the all colors that were mainly blue, yellow, green, you see. So the UI and being more open and not using a language that is very isolated and unique, but also talking about the long-term value has been very beneficial.
I wonder, it seems like sort of Norway is leading the pack, and we are seeing some trends that the other Nordic countries is picking up maybe in different haste. Is that your view, Torbjørn, and why is that?
It's hard to say exactly why, but I think a big benefit we have in Norway is that we have a collaborative banking industry. Much thanks to the Norwegian FSA a few years back, telling the banks to actually not just block the industry, but actually make real assessments. And we don't have to move further than just to Sweden, where most providers are unable to obtain a local banking partner, not because they're not approved by the local FSA, but because the banks are kind of too risk averse. I think Norway has a tendency of having higher risk appetite as well. We have a better tax structure than Sweden, making crypto more appealing here, at least for spot crypto. But I think the risk appetite combined with the industry's ability to have a better discussion, making it seen as less risky. And I think the reduction in risk perception is also a part of the driver of why we see more women and more people who are older coming into the industry.
What do you think then, Tuk? Because you could more or less say that you are leading the retail community, because you have now 350,000 customers together with Norway and Denmark. And what is the secret sauce, do you think?
Secret sauce. I tend to believe that financial products should be including, which means it shouldn't be pushing people away from being able to invest in things. Cryptocurrencies is opening up to actually own your own money for the first time ever, doing self-custody if you want. And for our own growth, we have been using a lot of time on understanding the needs of our users. It's not only the UX. It's not about only about the colors, but it's all the whole package, the whole ecosystem of what we're building. We're building text calculators into our own system to give our own users the own information they need. We want to help them with both the onboarding, the KYC, the text numbers they need to do to report to the authorities, and so on. So I think it's more of a broad product perspective that actually gives us this type of growth that we have been seeing here at Firi. And I think that's the secret sauce, not actually including people. Well, I'm not excluding people is the correct word here.
Thank you, Stig, that you're back. And maybe the first question, what is your 5 or 10 cents regarding the findings? Are you surprised, or is it in line with what you see in the markets, with what you see on your client side?
First of all, you can hear me now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I don't know. It's usually I don't have the problem with the tech, but okay. So I switched laptop. No, it's first of all, I just want to kind of thank you guys for actually doing this service. It's valuable. It's valuable insights for all of us, all the actors here, and I'm not really surprised by obviously seeing the quite growth in the last year. We have seen it too, and it has been across the board in Europe, all over, I think. So it's definitely not surprising, and I think we will see a lot of more growth going forward, and you will see. I see that in the estimates that was it 1.2 million Norwegians will own kind of crypto in 2035, was it, in 10 years? Yeah, then I assume then they are referring to like crypto as in Bitcoin or Ethereum, because I'm quite sure that almost everyone above 18 will own some sort of or hold some sort of stable coin in their app or on their phone or whatever you use, if it's a ring or so I think adoption will come a long way, but what we think of crypto as now will not be necessarily what we kind of refer to as crypto in 10 years.
So what you are referring to is that there are new types of payment, crypto payment structures like stable coins, but also maybe that crypto is wrapped up in other types of vehicles. For instance, Torbjørn, you guys, you are starting to have a cooperation with Stack XMe, which is a saving app. So maybe how will they answer next year or in 2 years? Do you think?
So hopefully there will be a lot more women holding crypto.
Okay.
Stack are especially kind of optimizing for that audience. And what we're doing is that we're setting up a structure where they will enable Stack users to also buy and hold crypto assets through the Stack apps. And this is a core part of our strategy, where while we work with larger clients directly on K33, we also work with these other financial institutions. And as Tuk said, the banks are coming. And in K33, our bet is to be one of the enablers for banks to offer this and fintechs to offer this to their clients.
what do you think then, Stuart? Is there still a way to grow on the retail side? I mean, getting the first users on board, we still have something left to get the first users on board?
You're asking me, right?
I asked Tuk, but
Yeah.
you
Oh,
can
sorry.
take...
Okay.
But Tuk, come on. No.
I'm actually unsure. I think it's very important to when you first onboard new type of clients outside of your own specialty. For example, for us, we do B2C, so we don't do a lot of B2B, but we do have some. But I think one of the things that might be the hardest is actually to build a brand for this. I haven't used Stack yet because as it has been promoted, it hasn't been for people like me, for male, because they're focusing on females. But obviously I could make an account, but I use more of the traditional ones. So I think it's more important to actually have a gender neutral platform in general. I truly believe that it should be gender neutral everywhere, because if we are going to break this type of stereotypes where you say that only men invest in crypto or financial assets, that shouldn't be a thing. For example, I don't have a background in finance. I'm actually a developer turning, I'm not sure what I am right now, but actually a founder, but a technical founder, I guess. So this is type of the stereotypes I think it's important to break free.
Are you there, Stig? What do you think about the way going forward? You related, will it be still a couple of years where we get retail and regular investors on board, or are we moving into a more complex or complementary system where access to crypto can be through ETFs, through saving apps, through collaboration with regular banks? You want to be a crypto bank, so what is your view on this?
Yes, so I think actually it's a bit two different path of adoption that retail and corporates will have. On retail, it will still be kind of, when they think about focus, crypto, they will basically think about investing long term, and also do kind of utility tokens or game related tokens, and that will definitely increase, and you will see that kind of token economy will be more involved in most of the digital thing that we do. But when you see that when it comes to corporations, you see that adoption is already happening quite rapidly when it comes to stables and everything related to that. As an example, you can say that cross-border payments and settlements in stablecoin, that is growing at almost kind of like hockey stick rate. Visa allows, for instance, settlements between merchants and the issuer of the card in stablecoins. You have BlackRock that has issued tokenized money market fund. These are basically the most boring funds, low risk that you can kind of get in the financial world. That's where you put the money that's going to be like super safe. These opportunities allow, when you have these tokenized and you can buy and you can basically enter with stable coins. That allows for participants accepting settlements or doing cross-border payments in stable coins to actually receive them the same day that they sold or whatever the transaction happened, and they can enter into these tokenized money funds. So this is like super traditional finance going 100% adoption, and the upside for the stablecoin holders is it's more interest days. That's it, more days of interest.
I also wanted to ask you, Sophia, because regarding crypto, there has been different types of offering it. And a couple of years ago, we had this NFT boom, and maybe last year we had this ordinal, which was also sort of an NFT, but then on Bitcoin. But you are not only working on that; you're also working on launching new layer ones and layer twos and introduce them to your network and investors. What is your view about the wrapping of these type of investment? Your thoughts?
I mean, it's backing the whole point with blockchain and the big dream of democratizing financial assets, allowing people to have more easily access to, let's say, for instance, solar parks, which are very capital intensive investment assets that do have a steady revenue stream, and tokenizing this and fractionalizing it has been, of course, something that people have done in the traditional stock market, but doing it through NFTs and making it more liquid and opening up like other products are very interesting aspects as well. And yeah, so we definitely started out mainly focusing on NFTs, being very clear about 99% of them actually losing their value, but seeing like what's being created. For instance, like Pretty Penguins that I know Tuk is also a proud holder of, how they actually entered Walmart and in the US and Target with this physical plushies, just as a quick example of how these digital space will merge at some point. And of course, it's very great to see these numbers and the increasement in the crypto space, especially Norway, being in the founder sector as well. Like there's so much talk about AI. We kind of also forget to talk about verification of generated outcomes as well, and seeing the value of blockchain in the verification process as well. And also just being a part of Gen Z and the whole conversation about, are we being lazy, or are we really, seeing the opportunities that exist and doing the research and seeing the broader lines in the overall society on a global scale. Just I don't want to bring in politics, but the fact that once Russia was sanctioned, how the value of crypto in that point onwards, and all of these high level conversations.
In this survey, we haven't asked about what type of tokens people are investing in, but if you follow the news stream, the last month we have had meme coins. People have been asking, when will the alt market come? And then it seems to be back to Bitcoin, because the dominance of Bitcoin is moving, and it's also going into the migration with classical finance. Is that how you think of it, Torbjørn?
Yeah, so we have seen this hollowing out of all of the utility tokens, or especially layer 1 tokens that is not Bitcoin. And then you have had a lot of liquidity being sucked away from strong crypto projects into meme coins. I still believe that a lot of the kind of more platform-based tokens, or at least those platforms, will shape the future of the crypto space and finance. I'm not sure which value is the right value, not even for ETH, because the value of the ETH token is not linearly linked to the Ethereum platform. And I think what we've seen is that there's been a lot of speculation demand, and therefore kind of the meme tokens have been the purest form of speculation. But there also a lot of the projects have been too greedy, so they basically bled the victims dry too fast. I think we'll continue to see a strong dominance for Bitcoin. I think, as Stig mentioned, stablecoins are the next major frontier, where we're now starting to see kind of real hockey stick development and kind of real usage outside of kind of moving funds between exchanges is actually becoming a payment rail. And then trading wise, I'm very uncertain about the rest.
What about you, as the largest exchange in Norway? And well, Safando is also saying that they have 400,000 clients. I don't know if what is the correct numbers, but you seem to have active clients. And how many coins are you offering? And do people trade them, or is it mainly focused on for instance, Bitcoin?
Yeah, from my own memory, I believe we offer around 20 coins on our exchange currently. And yeah, our customers do trade. We actually, in 2024, had our best year. I guess everybody had their best year in 2024, but we had around 11, almost 12 billion Norwegian kroners in volume on our platform. So it's quite far ahead of the numbers that I've seen across the Nordics. And so, yeah, I think that it has been some change in the markets. It's something in Norway. I think it's the whole. Yeah, I think one thing that for certain everybody in this room from the operator side knows how it feels to talk with the banks back in 2017, 16, 18, 19, 20, and how hard it has been to get a bank account, get the bank to understand what we're doing. And I think even though we haven't been working together on it, we have been working on our own fronts, and it seems to actually loosen up on at many banks. You're no longer afraid of losing your bank account, which has been and still are some of the issues that we see in our neighboring countries. So I think somehow, some way, we have been able to turn the negative that Bitcoin and crypto is only a scam and actually prove and show that we can provide the necessary information to actually show that this is not even true. And one thing, I think one term that I really liked back in 2021 is DeFi mullet. So you get the banking financial products in front, and you get decentralized products in the back. You won't even know in the future. This is what I believe. In the future, I don't think you even know if a bank or a financial provider actually use blockchain. We talk about stablecoins. You never know. Suddenly, Norwegian kroners are a stablecoin. You won't know where it's actually stored, but it's probably on a blockchain, I'm guessing. So I really like the term. So I wanted to have a chance to say the DeFi mullet in the stream at least once, so it will be here forever.
Will it be like that people don't even know what is behind what they are investing in or buying or trading in or sending to a friend in another part of the world? How shall we then try to find out the adoption the next year or 2 years ahead? Do you have any thoughts on that, Torbjørn? You're starting to try to find out some types of analytics?
So we're not going to talk about crypto adoption. Like, you don't see webinars on internet adoption in Norway. And it's going to be then subsectors. It's going to be over time. Maybe it's going from crypto adoption to different types of adoption, and then it's going to become these niche conferences where people show up from all over the world and have really deep conversations about something that the rest of us kind of don't deal with, or unless we're a part of those conversations. So it's the early days. We talk about crypto adoption. We have the media making videos. This is how you can buy an NFT and everything is funny. It's exactly as what happened in the late 90s when you look at NRK's archives on how to use the internet and cool programs for kids. And it all looks very strange and funny now because we just take it for granted, and that's the future for crypto as well. It's just going to be taken for granted. Some is going to be an explicit investment in Bitcoin. Some is going to be some stable coin under the hood, and it's going to be everywhere.
Is that what you think also, Sophia? You are also a commenter in E24, and what will be the headline in E24 in 1 year's time when this adoption maybe has been going the direction that Torbjørn says? What do you think?
Definitely going under the fintech section, I believe. Just not broader than that, not more specific. So the Web3 section maybe. But it's still, if you look at the Gartner's hype cycle, there's still some years left. But when it meets the plateau of productivity, then we'll just not have these conversations this specific.
Okay, maybe we'll then round up with a question to all the four of you guys. What do you think will be the most important activity or priority or strategic going forward related to, let's say it's still a question about adoption or usage or whatever in the next couple of years? What is the most important things that the industry, the regulation authorities, or businesses, whatever, can do to increase the usage of the blockchain and the crypto technology? Steve, could you maybe start?
Yeah, I definitely think I'm going back to stables, because I think that will be the most kind of the wildest game changer for or most disruptive for the kind of traditional financial industry, because it will obviously it will make cross-border payments settle within minutes. It will reduce risk and friction. It is kind of like a building block for other financial products, could be lending and saving. So I think and you will see this shift of where basically today you have most of the large transactions going between the continents goes through large correspondence bank, and you will basically outloop those, and it will be more bank to bank. So it will start with that, and I don't know I expect that it won't be long until you can actually top up a kind of stable coins from your bank. And you see, this is actually something that you can say what you want about the people running the show over the Atlantic, but one of the policies that they have implemented is loosening on the ability for banks to operate, US banks to operate with stable coins. So it's like a catalyst for the shift.
What do you think, Torbjørn, going ahead?
I think the main driver will be the kind of complete merger between crypto and finance sector. But your question was on what needs to kind of be dealt with or change, or kind of what do we need to focus on? And there, I think we really, really need a political awakening. 12% of Norwegians own cryptocurrencies. Not a single politician talks about cryptocurrency as an important part of their political platform. There's so many angles, whether it's changing laws so it becomes easier for banks to do custody from a capital requirements perspective. There's questions in whether we should be early, late, or not at all implement EU regulatory things like MiCA. It's questions on mining. There's questions on whether the central bank should prepare more actively for a future with stable coins, reserves in Bitcoin or not. There's so many questions that are of a political nature. There's so many decisions that will need to be taken. Should we have an active industrial policy trying to grow this sector in Norway? Should we not? And there's an absolute mismatch between how many who own cryptocurrencies, how many like the subset of those who think this is an important topic, the businesses that are in crypto. And for the first politicians who figure out an angle here, there's probably a lot of voters to gain. That's what Trump figured out, and the people working from him, and that was a part of the reason on how he could win the election. We have an election coming up this year. Hopefully, crypto will be a part of the discussion, because all four of us thinks that this will change the world. And if we still believe in a democracy, our politicians should have insight, understanding, and knowledge about what's going to change the world. Otherwise, they cannot make the right decisions or good proposals for us as a country.
And then to you, Chuck, what is your 5 or 10 cents regarding the way going forward?
Okay, yeah, I'll stick to the 10 then, I guess. But what I do believe is, if you look away from all the technology side, on the stablecoin side, I want to also back on the political side, but not only in a single country, not like Norway. I believe that you need to see the whole picture in every country. For example, here in Norway, now you actually do have banks that do the custody of Norwegian kroners for example, us. it's quite a large number. For example, Fury, we have around, right now, 7-8 billion Norwegian kroners in assets under management for our customers. This should be the focus of the FSA, the tax authorities, and the banks to actually support the local players in every country. This is something I want to replicate in Denmark, something I want to replicate in other countries in the Nordics, because it doesn't make sense to use this much money on building new KYC AML requirements where all the funds are moving out of the region. It's going out to the global players. It's not like everybody is answering to the request of the police or to the FSA or whoever wants the information. So if the region itself, for example, the Nordics, wants to actually build up something stronger than just one-man team, I truly believe it has to be even country. And I do believe that the FSAs at least are working country. So it should be something that everybody should focus on. And I do understand that the words I'm saying is basically telling everybody to build up strong exchanges, but I think the bigger the pie, the more customers it will be, the more adoption you will get, and then the bank can always come. And I think it's also about different risk perspectives. So yeah.
And then to you, Sophia, what do you think are important going forward to bring things on the agenda of things moving the business or moving the adoption even more?
I think I'm gonna end it the same way we ended it last year, that there's a need of better knowledge within those actors who aren't in the crypto space, who aren't the same people you meet every conference, having this. It's also, as Torbjørn mentioned, the politicians that actually have very little knowledge about this, unfortunately, and those who actually go out and talk about this in the media and make this skremselpropaganda a lot. So me, actually belonging to the left side of the politics, went out in E24 and wrote about how they have misunderstood what blockchain and crypto actually is, and meeting them and just like raising our voices, because then you end up on Dagsrevyen talking with them. So you don't have to do more than that, actually, to just start a conversation and lifting up the kunnskapsnivå.
Maybe we should meet again on Arendalsuka in August and try to get the topic on the political agenda. Of course, there are elitists at that, but the media is there. Are you joining me? Okay, let's finish this event first. And we will now have just 4 or 5 minutes break. Don't close your live stream, because we will continue on the same stream, the same links on X, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and on the website. And we thank all very much for the illuminating of this topic from Tuk, Torbjørn, Sophia, and Stig. Thank you very much, and then we'll meet again in about 4 minutes. Hello and welcome back to this second part of the live stream today, where we are wrapping up the Nordic Crypto Adoption Week. We started out on Monday with Sweden. We continued with Denmark on Tuesday. On Wednesday, we both had Finland and for the first time also Iceland. And we have now had 1.5 hours focusing on the Norwegian scene, but also some discussions about the difference between Norway and the other countries in the Nordics. But we will dig more into that in this second part. This event is created between K33 and Nordic Blockchain Association and Cooper as a media partner. And we can already see that we have several thousand people that have been engaging in either the posts or the videos or the commenting opportunities. And all the content from this event will also then be available as a recording. We'll give you the links at the end of the show for that. But then we will start out with then the welcome to the stage, the regular wizards that are going to help us trying to find out what is happening in the Nordics. Vetle Lunde and Magnus Jones. How are you thinking now? Because we have been now shared all the numbers for 5 different countries, and you, Vetle, have some numbers from several years back regarding Norway, regarding Sweden and Finland and Denmark. There was also done something last year, but this year the first time with Iceland. So are you excited, Vetle?
Yeah, I am. And it's completely understandable that this can feel a bit like information overload. So I'm hopeful that this Nordic summary, this presentation here, will help everyone sort of align and digest all the numbers that has been presented this week, so we can have a meaningful discussion and talk about the differences between the various Nordic countries, why they have emerged, and what to make of those data, and what initiatives can be taken in countries that are lagging or where we see other behavioral patterns among holders.
Anything to add, Magnus?
Yeah, just to stress to what you said, Morten, of course, the live streams here will be available to review, but we will also naturally issue reports. So in the context of what Vetle said, if you need to digest this one, but maybe not even a glass of wine, but maybe 3 liters, and sit down in front of the fireplace, you can digest the information for yourself, as we will have reports for each separate Nordic country, and also a joint report for the Nordics in general with a comparison of the whole thing, which we will run through now. So everyone can use their numbers. Also, the whole purpose is to use it in, like we briefly touched upon policy matters in politics, in towards your own governments, etc. So that's what we try to enhance here.
Okay, then we can continue with just a minute. I will have to remove that one, I think, because now we are going into the presentation of the Nordic results. Just a minute.
Yes, welcome everyone to the aggregated Nordic crypto ownership numbers. This summarizes everything that we have been through over the past week, covering ownership rates across the Nordics. It contains a lot of useful information to use, either, as Magnus stated earlier, to talk to politicians and show that crypto has become a meaningful size that many people care about in various jurisdictions, or to make informed choices on which countries you would like to expand to, or just get a better understanding and sense of what kind of trends there are within the various Nordic countries. And given that all of these surveys have been done with a panel of 1,000 respondents. We are now looking at data covering 5,000 respondents. So it's a huge and vast data set. But when we look at aggregated sums, we are then looking at aggregated sums from 5,000 respondents, making these numbers very interesting and valuable as information, even when you drill down into specifics. But for local comparisons, we obviously use the panels that we have elaborated on previously. And the entire survey is, as specified previously, based on all of these 4 questions, whether or not you own Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies, and whether or not you think will buy within a specified time period. And if you own, how much do you own, and which platforms do you use to buy or sell your cryptocurrencies? So based on this, let's get going and see where the Nordic is at, and then look at the local variations in the Nordics. In the Nordics, 10% of all Nordic adults own crypto. It's been a great increase compared to last year's figures of 7.3%. The growth has predominantly originated from Norway, Denmark, and Finland, who all 3 of them see very solid ownership rates, but I've also seen very solid growth over the past year. And what's interesting with this year's numbers is that it's more seasoned adults that have entered the market. Based on the Norwegian survey that we have done in so many years, we can see that this is the first edition where we see a massive increase in holders aged 40 or more. And I think this reflects the Nordic average, where we don't have the same luxury of having surveys done many years in the past. But overall, ownership among older cohorts has grown, and we attribute this to just the institutionalization, regulatory developments, and political tailwinds that crypto is experiencing at the moment. What this 9.6% figure translates to in absolute numbers is 2.18 billion, million Nordic crypto owners, which is an increase of 635,000 owners from last year. So we have seen a very, very solid increase in Nordic crypto owners over the past year. And now it's time to better understand the demographics behind this development.
Indeed, Vetle. And for the ones who has followed us the whole week here, we have seen this pattern. There has been a growth in every category of the age groups, and also that we have seen the curve being like also we heard from Marius Johansen at the tax authorities in Norway, that the majority of the population in the Nordics are still on the younger side. However, the older ones are also growing in some manner. So we have seen in the age group of 18 to 29 a growth from 14 to 19%, 30 to 39 growth from 12.5 to 18.5, 40 to 49, 7.5 to 12.6, and 50-64 from 3.4 to 7.4, and also older than 64 has had almost doubled the increase there. When we are talking about these numbers, we should in general also take into concern that naturally the survey only covers persons from 18 and above. We know for sure from being in this industry, and we have also seen comments coming into it during the different broadcasts, that de facto are younger persons than 18 years old who also hold crypto assets in some manner. These numbers, unfortunately, are not included here because we cannot do the survey on a lower age than, but it should be taken into concern that that's also an error or an decrease in some matter that should be taken into consideration. And when it comes to the male-female ratio, we see that of all Nordic men, on average, we have 15% of all Nordic men who owns crypto, while it is 4.5% of all women who holds crypto. So it has been a little stronger growth in terms of the male side, but also like we saw now from Norway, who's leading this way, we see an increase in the female side, which is very great to see, and that we also heard from the panel in some matter. So if we also look into the persons in general who has crypto assets, not the whole population, but the ones who has crypto assets, we see that it's 23% of all Nordic crypto owners who are female. And if we revert it into numbers and add that together, we have 500,000, 500,000 females who owns crypto, while it is 1.68 million males who owns crypto.
And while current crypto ownership in the Nordics sits at 2.1 million owners, our survey indicates that within the next decade, these numbers could grow to 6.4 million owners. And as many as 28% of the respondents across the Nordics expects to buy crypto within the next decade. In the next year, 9% of all the respondents expects to buy cryptocurrencies. And further, 9% also expects to buy cryptocurrencies within the next 3 years. So that means that within the next year, 2 million people in the Nordics are currently expecting to buy cryptocurrencies, and a further 2 million people are expecting to buy cryptocurrencies within the next 3 years. So it's a lot of current owners, but it's also a lot of potential new owners once we look at this data next year and also in the years that's coming. And last year, these figures came in at 22%. So we have seen a notable increase, leading to 28% this year. So it suggests that the general sentiment around cryptocurrencies in the Nordics has improved, and that there are significant demand to acquire crypto in the years to come in the Nordics.
And the numbers and amounts that persons has invested in some matter of what they're holding, converted into here from local currency to US dollars. We see the same, call it pattern towards the curve here as for the age groups, that the majority of persons own a smaller amount of crypto. Nearly 60% of the Nordic crypto owners holds less than $1,000 in value. However, we see that for the other side of it, like we saw in Norway, of the ones who holds above $50,000, they also hold significant amounts in some manner.
And based on these numbers, we have in all the local country presentations estimated wealth in the Nordics, in each country, and based on the sum of all of these wealth estimations, we estimate Nordic crypto wealth to sit at approximately $16.7 billion. That would represent 0.6% of the global crypto market cap at the time this survey was conducted, which was in early March. And it signals that the Nordics holds a material presence in the global crypto economy, but is a relatively small size when compared to sizes such as the US and Europe more broadly. And now we are moving on over to the per nation comparison. Magnus Jones has labeled this as the tutti frutti section of this presentation. We do have some bold color choices here, but it is because it's easier on the eye to see the national differences through those bars that we have applied. So I hope it makes it more readable. But it's a color show going on, so stay tuned for that. Here we have it, the changes in adoption rates across the Nordics since last year's survey. Iceland is obviously not included with last year's results since we didn't include Iceland last year. But as you can see across the board, most Nordic countries have experienced tremendous growth in ownership over the past year, particularly Norway, Denmark, and Finland. Norway is leading in terms of crypto adoption, with Norwegian ownership rates coming in at 12.3%. But Denmark and Finland have seen very robust growth over the past year. Compared to this growth, Sweden lags behind. It has seen some growth over the past year, but it's well behind what we have seen in the other Nordic countries. And then translating this percentage into absolute numbers, looking at the number of new holders per country, we can see that Finland is the country that has experienced the biggest crypto adoption over the past year, with an estimated 230,000 new owners compared to last year. Denmark and Norway is pretty much in the same spot, in a range of 150 to 160,000 new owners, whereas Sweden has seen comparatively soft growth of 88,000 new owners in the past year.
And when we are then looking into the demographics of male and female again, this chart shows then the male only, and we will take the female afterwards. And where we see that Finland is topping the male adoption when we measure it by percentage by 17.6. Norway is following close with 17.2. But however, if we look into the numbers per se of the owners, we see that Sweden is leading the way like they did also last year with 490,000 unique owners of cryptocurrencies on the men side. On the female side, we see that Norway is clearly leading the way, like we heard earlier today, with 7.3%, which is a high number also internationally in some matter. But we are also very happy to see the findings from Iceland, where they made a great introduction of being a very good runner-up with 5.8%. Naturally, it's not that easy due to the population size of Iceland to follow up on the graph on the right side. We see Norway is leading the way there also, but also Sweden is following tight with 140,000 unique female persons who has crypto assets, close to Norway with 163,000. And some of the initiatives Morten has mentioned here that has been very good and great on the Swedish side. So that's also something that we enhance and encourage further. And maybe that's also something for the discussion later to see how we can also cooperate and collaborate closer together across the whole of the Nordics to even increase these numbers even more in also Denmark. And Finland is moving also closer up, as we can see, with 150,000 unique females who has crypto assets in Somad.
And then looking at the male to female ratios across the countries, you can see some very notable differences between Norway and for instance, Denmark. In Norway, nearly 1 in 3 crypto owners are female, whereas in Denmark, these figures are far lower, coming in at 17%, meaning that less than 1 in 5 crypto owners in Denmark are females. So there are big discrepancies across the various countries in terms of female crypto adoption. And it suggests that some of the Nordic countries have some wiggle room to move here because it's helpful for Norway's aggregated adoption that female adoption rates are at 7%. So encouraging and facilitating for female adoption in other Nordic countries as well is due to enhance overall participation. So this should potentially be a priority in some of these countries, and it's a good topic to discuss later in this panel. And then if we look into other demographics to understand the age brackets and how old crypto owners typically tend to be, we can see that across many Nordic countries, ages from 18 to 29 is the highest scoring percentage. It's more common to own crypto in Denmark and Finland if you are in this age bracket than any other age brackets. But there are some variations, like Norway is seeing the highest adoption rate within the 30 to 39 year cohort. And we have also seen a very robust increase across all Nordic countries within the 40 to 49 year bracket and 50 to 59 year bracket. And this is illustrated further in this chart, where we show the relative change compared to last year in percentage points. So what we see here is that the 18 to 29 year age bracket sees some mild variations across the Nordic countries. In Norway and Sweden, it has actually declined, whereas in Denmark and Finland, it has surged. The same kind of variation is true within the 30 to 39 year bracket, whereas in 40 to 49 and 50 to 59, growth is fairly bit more consistent. And even when looking at 60 plus, we can see growth across the board. So this is telling of older investors warming to crypto, seeking to participate. And this is not just a local phenomenon in any given Nordic country. It's a phenomenon across the Nordics, and probably also a theme that we are seeing across the globe.
And when it comes to the expected future ownership rates, we see that there's also huge variations from country to country in terms of who believes they will own crypto within the next 10 years. So we have Norway with 26%, Sweden 21% believes they will own within the next 10 years. Denmark is even a little bit more positive with 32%. While Finland, like we heard from our New Year's and Christmas Eve package presenting show, like Vetle said, they're totally crazy over there. Here we have even 41% who believes they will purchase cryptos in the next 10 years. Iceland, we don't have any statistics on previously, but they are now on a positive side for the next 10 years with 15% of the population who believes they will purchase cryptos within the next decade.
And looking at this expected ownership data from an age perspective, we can see that also here, younger people are more inclined to expect crypto ownership in the future than older people. The effect is particularly pronounced in Denmark and Finland. But Finland, as Magnus said, is just mind-blowing numbers across the board. If you look at the averages from 18 to 59 years, as many as 55.5% of Finns indicated that they expect to own crypto within the next decade. But even for Denmark, a majority of the population aged 18 to 39 expects to own crypto within the next decade. In Norway, it's relatively similar, albeit a bit more muted, with 40% within these age brackets expecting to own crypto within the next 10 years. And these expectation rates declines by age. And the older you are, the less plausible it is that you consider adding crypto exposure in the future.
And men are more open to owning crypto in the future than women when we break these numbers down. Again, the men in Finland are the most positive towards it, with just as much as 45%. But we also see that the female side in Finland is leading the way with 36%. So we clearly see that Finland is maybe the most crypto optimistic countries of the Nordic ones in Sommer. And Finns and Norwegians, they are seeking local trading alternatives, i.e. they are trading on the local exchanges and preferring that one, like we looked into earlier today in the Norwegian ones, but we have seen this one all over the week. That specifically in Norway, there's a strong reference links towards that you prefer to trade at domestic exchanges. Also the same in Finland, while Denmark is leading the way clearly with 87% who prefers to purchase on international exchanges. Also taking into concern here what we talked about earlier today, the ETP, the ETFs, the exchange traded funds, as more of a financial instrument, but a way to be exposed towards crypto. We see that Sweden is clearly leading the way with as much as 33% there. And for all of these explanations, there are what we also talked about in the broadcast earlier today, tax reasons for the ETP, the ETFs. There's also tax reasons maybe in Denmark, because what we concluded a little on in that broadcast was that maybe there's a stronger preference towards keeping yourself at a foreign exchange, because you tend to believe that if you trade at a national one, the tax authorities will have access to you, your data, and then you will sort of be caught up if you haven't paid your taxes already. So this was just one hypothesis surrounding it that might explain sort of saying the differences that we see here. And also, like we see that Norway in general has more and older crypto exchanges than many countries. Sweden has a great one who has been around since the early days with Safello, but still they have up until recently been pretty alone there, while in Norway there has been more actors. So that also might be some of the reasoning why we see Norway is strong there, in terms of what we also have seen with regards to the local presence of more players being active in Finland, and that you, for various different reasons, specifically in Norway, it has been actually possible to get a bank account and get your funds in from crypto. However, the Norwegian banks has set out in general a requirement that if you are to go from crypto to fiat ordinary money, Norwegian crowns, and get that one into the bank, you have to go through a local exchange in some matter, and then it has been the natural preference. So you might even use the foreign ones, but you do your on and off ramp with the local ones. That can be the explanation. While in Sweden, it has been very difficult to get a local bank account going from crypto to fiat, and in the similar way in Denmark also. So that also might be some of the explanations that we see to a lower presence, that rather Swedes and Danes, they prefer to rather stick with the foreign exchange and might use other solutions like Revolut or other, or keep it just in crypto for so.
And just to chime in on this chart, we acknowledge that these questions are asked to a smaller sample, i.e. the current crypto owners. But if we compare current results to the results from last year's survey, we will see that it pretty much matches. Danish usage of international exchanges in 2024 was 87%, same as it is today. It was Finland and Norway who dominated the local scene, and ETPs were very prevalent in Sweden. And so this gives us more confidence in these numbers being correctly. And it highlights the general popularity of local exchanges in some of the Nordic countries compared to the other Nordic countries.
And Norway has the largest group of crypto owners when we estimate and calculated towards US dollars in conversion, where we see we have an estimated crypto wealth of $5.8 billion in Norway, close to 2.8 in Sweden, 3.3 in Denmark, and 4.4 in Finland, while Iceland has an estimate of 0.35 billion US dollars in value in general.
So wrapping all of these findings up, we can see that there are now nearly 2.2 million Nordic crypto owners. All of the countries that we monitored last year has seen an increase in ownership. Sweden has the most crypto owners, but also the lowest crypto ownership rate. Crypto ownership in the Nordics increased by 635,000 people in the past year. And we are seeing growth across all age cohorts, but still a relatively wide gender gap. As many as 28% of the respondents believe they will buy crypto within the next 10 years. And this could potentially increase the Nordic crypto ownership ratios to 6.4 million people by 2035. So this was it for our summary of all of the survey data. And we now look forward to hearing the discussions on our findings and seeing what we can do to help the Nordics grow further in the years to come.
Thank you very much, Vetle and Magnus, for this interesting overview of the Nordic findings. And we will go directly to, we have two panel discussions today. One will be then related to the industry. We will have representatives of the different players in the Nordics. And we will also then, in the second part, also look a little more on the society side and regulation side. So we will start with the industry, and I will gradually put them on the stage and then welcome them on board. And we will then start with Torbjørn, you and Sofia, you have already presented yourself, so I can go further, and maybe we could start on the right. Simon Osaker from Denmark, and just give a short introduction of yourself, not focus on the results yet, we will get back to that. So Simon, please.
Yeah, happy to do a quick intro. My name is Simon. I'm one of the founders of Januar. Januar is a payment institution in Denmark. So we provide crypto businesses around Europe with IBAN accounts for first and third party payments. That means we're providing the rails for a lot of, say, smaller brokers and crypto related businesses. So business to business. So we don't interact directly with the retail clients, but we of course see what our own clients are doing with them.
And then you, Jonas.
Hi there, my name is Jonas Järvinen. I'm one of the co-founders of Kwan. We are a regulated brokerage and trading platform originated from Finland, and we are serving clients all over the Nordics, mainly in Finland now, but looking to expand also internationally now with the MiCA regulation allowing us to expand a little bit more flexibly.
And then we also welcome Matthias from Chainalysis. We know that Chainalysis has a Danish history, but you're probably not from Denmark, Matthias. I think your sound is you're muted.
Hopefully this works better.
Okay.
Yeah, Morten, you are totally right. I'm broadcasting live from Vienna, but Chainalysis does have a Danish history. I'm based in Vienna. I'm head of policy for Europe at Chainalysis, which is a blockchain analytics company. And what it basically means is that we combine and analyze raw blockchain data and combine it with open source intelligence from social media, the darknet, research from our global intelligence team, and also input from the vast network of customers that we have, to really map on-chain transactions to real-world entities. And this can be used for investigative purposes. Think about crypto asset tracing, for example. It can also be used for compliance purposes, due diligence purposes. Think about KYT, so know your transaction monitoring systems, counterparty due diligence, but also Web3 business growth data, because this transactional transparency on blockchains actually allows you to better understand relationships between entities that interact. And it's an immutable ledger, so it's a very, very exciting space to be in.
We will get back to that also in the discussions. Then to you, Gulli, you can present yourself.
Yeah, hi Morten and everyone. My name is Gulli. I'm one of the founder and the CEO of a company called Riska Digital Asset based in Iceland. We currently run 2 liquid token crypto funds and has been operating since 2022. We have around 70 LPs and manage around $25 million and are very eager to represent the crypto industry in this panel and in Iceland. So we do a lot of writing, both within the local community and also towards the global audience. So we have a great passion for bringing this new asset class and this technology to the world. So glad to join you guys on this great panel.
And then to you, Philip, from Safello.
Yes, hi, nice to meet you, everyone. I'm Philip from Safello, Swedish crypto platform. We are currently only serving the Swedish user base, and we have around over 400,000 users, both retail and corporate customers. I'm in our operations team, so I'm involved with various projects. Been working very close to Matt, who I know was on earlier this week as well. He's our head of operations. So yeah, happy to be here.
Maybe we should start with a round, but I could also maybe start with a question, for instance, for Jonas. The other day here, there was someone that thought that why the Finnish were crypto native, it was because they were number 1 in happiness in the world. Is that the reason, Jonas? Or maybe we in Norway should be even more happy then. Jonas?
Yeah, that's a good question. We touched that and joked that potentially that was the same survey firm that did the survey for that, because no one really recognizes those happy people in Finland. So no. Jokes aside, I think we've seen definitely the growth there and the positive attitude, especially with the younger generation. But of course, the numbers were a little bit higher than expected compared to the last year. So, but definitely a positive sign there. We don't necessarily feel that in the financial media to that extent, but of course we see a lot of these, underground and among the investment communities, it's getting quite popular. So definitely a good signs of the adaptation there. And of course, what we compare those numbers to the traditional savings and investment rates among the adult population, and we are already quite heavy there. So 25% of the normal investors and savers, they own cryptos already. And if you look at the younger cohorts, it's much more popular already to invest in cryptos than in funds or stocks. So it's quite remarkable already.
So you see the same trends in your business as you see in the numbers. That's how I interpret what you're saying. I'm wondering about you, Philip. We can see that Sweden is not moving ahead in the same speed as the other Nordic countries. And we know that there is launched a blockchain organization in Sweden last November, and we will also follow up on that in the next panel. But is Sweden too conservative? Is that the reason why Sweden is lagging?
It's a good question. I'm quite surprised as well. I do think that a lot of people who are buying crypto in Sweden, the ETPs are quite interesting. Yes, as we talked about before the panel, that there's tax advantages to using ISK accounts or capital insurances. So users might prefer to go that way. I also think that especially when it comes to like local companies like in Sweden, we have to offer our broadenings to be more comparable to international players to make sure that basically the difference between users that decides to go on an international platform could instead decide to choose a local player instead.
Okay, I would also like to hear more from you, Matthias, because now we have plugged into this is of course consumer asked question. It's an omnibus of what you could call it, where people are being asked, and then we have some numbers from the tax authorities, mainly from Norway, But you are working on on-chain data, and do you see that these numbers are confirming what you see, or do you see some differences?
Yeah, Morten, thank you for the question. I think that's a really good point. So customer service and on-chain data are fundamentally different, and I think they really are two great methods that should be combined. When you think about on-chain data really is not reported data. You're not asking someone. You're looking at actual activity that is happening on-chain. It is immutable. It is absolutely verifiable, because a transaction either happens or it doesn't. And that's why the blockchain essentially provides us a real-time, immutable, transparent ledger that we can query. So there is a lot of positives to it, because you can actually see how transactions have been done, rather than asking people what they would be doing, or self-reported data always has got a certain bias. But it also comes with some challenges. And the first one, obviously, is how do you map transactional activity to real-world entities? And that's what Chainalysis does. That's the first part, because blockchains are pseudonymous, so you don't know which individuals are interacting, and that's also not what Chainalysis does. We only map services, for example, exchanges, to on-chain transactional activity. So that's the first part. You have to label activity to blockchain transactions. And then the second part that's also quite challenging is around geolocation. Blockchain data, on-chain data or the technology itself is obviously inherently global. That's one of the massive advantages of it. But it's then really hard to pin down a specific transaction into a specific region. There is multiple ways of doing that. There is none that is actually perfect. The way we do this to find a proxy is by linking the on-chain data that we have and the entities that we've mapped in a specific jurisdiction. We then take that entity, look at web traffic. So how many users excuse me, how many users are actually going on the website of a specific service. And that gives us an idea of the user base of a specific entity. We can then take that data and map it to our on-chain activity. So, for example, what we do with geolocation data, and this is, again, it's just a proxy that allows us to understand overall trends better, but it's not perfect, and it actually doesn't allow us to pin specific transactions into a specific jurisdiction. But to give you a good example, if 10 Bitcoins are transferred to a specific entity, for example, K33 or also Fellow, and we know that K33, for example, has 70% of web traffic from Norway, we would then account, out of those 10, we would then account 7 Bitcoin transactions, or the value received of 7 Bitcoins to Norway, or in Fellow's case, to Sweden. So it just gives you a proxy. And I think this is really important to understand. These are not like ultimate figures. These are estimates. We think they are pretty robust estimates because of the billions of data points we have, but they still remain that. Now, coming to your question, we see Europe essentially is the second biggest player from a transactional perspective, followed by North America. Europe itself is growing. What we can see in the on-chain data is that the Nordics are actually growing a little bit faster than other countries within Europe, especially in the middle field. That's where the Nordics roughly play. You've got the UK first, Germany, France, second and third here. But the Nordics definitely have overtaken the middle field, countries like Austria, like my home country, or even Portugal, which is quite interesting. The country that stands out from a transactional perspective really is Finland, where we see most change year over year in terms of value received on chain. In other categories around like who's interacting, when we look at Europe, and that's the same for the Nordics, it's mainly interactions with centralized exchanges. The DeFi space is still relevant, but it's not growing as quickly as in other regions. For example, in Latin America, we see much more growth in the DeFi space. So long-worded answer to basically say on-chain transactional activity shows that the Nordic region is growing. It's actually growing bigger than comparable countries in Europe, and that's definitely a good sign. It also maps what you have found in your survey, with Finland definitely being the country with the most year-on-year growth.
So then we are starting to have some confirmation. We have some yearly investigation done by Case 33. Norges Bank came out with some numbers last year. We had the tax authorities, and now we have some insights also on the on-chain data. But why is this happening? What do you think, Torbjørn? Why is Norway ahead?
Well, I think the general growth has to do with cryptocurrencies becoming more normal and also prices appreciating. I mean, there's more people want in when there's a bull market, and we see that from the time series we have from Norway. I think Norway has kind of three main drivers. One is that the tax system for crypto is actually pretty favorable. It's a symmetrical loss deduction on capital gains. It's only a 22% tax on capital gains. So it really makes sense to kind of invest and trade crypto spot as a private individual. So we have a favorable tax situation compared to several of the other Nordic countries. We have a long history, as you mentioned, with very early movers offering crypto trading. We have still the oldest broker that started in 2011 that is still operational. And we've had a lot of profiles, including myself, getting a lot of media attention for many, many years, almost a decade now. That has helped shape the public discussion and create more positivity towards the sector. And lastly, the banks are more collaborative. It used to be hard, but it's not anymore to get a local bank account as a crypto broker, which makes it much easier for the local players. And naturally, the local players have much more targeted marketing, communication, and visibility, and will generate more growth. And I think that's probably part of the reason why we've seen the strong growth in Finland, is because we have a company like Kvarn that has really kind of accelerated. We see that the international exchanges attract users from everywhere, but they don't work with the local perception. So having strong local players, I think, has been important for Norway.
Another result was this difference in how the diversification is between men and women. And Sophia, do you have any explanation why Norway is ahead on that area? You're muted. Yeah, so sometimes it happens that you have.
Yeah.
Can we hear you? Yeah, come on.
Yeah, okay, thank you. If you share screens, then you can't unmute yourself. So I think that's one solution. But yeah, Norway's been focusing more on female adoption with the local platforms, definitely. We've been noticing that and inviting and speaking to larger profiles, which are also women, because there is established names out there, and once they tap into this, their followers also are aware of what's happening. So yeah, we actually doubled almost, went from 4% last survey to 7%. And that's just amazing within 1 year. And it kind of showcases, if you really go in for getting a broader adoption and meeting customers that you may not have today, you can actually end up securing them within a reasonable time frame.
One of the differences that people have talked about is the tax, it is the regulation, is the banking or unbanking problem. And in Sweden, that has been a problem, as we have understand, because Blockchain Sweden, they found out that of the 10 or 11 founders of that organization, only one had a local bank, and that is a problem that you are trying to solve, Simon. And but you are a B2B company, so to say. So do you see any confirmation of these trends in your business?
Yes, definitely. So I also have a background from Chainalysis, and a lot of the work I did there was with banks and crypto businesses that didn't have access to bank accounts. So actually helping banks understand how to work with crypto businesses, it could help broker those relationships, but it was still really, really difficult to get those big changes to happen within the banks. So that's why I founded Yenot, because that was not a solved problem in Europe at all, probably a lot of the world as well. So what we did differently was we got a payment institution license, not a banking license, but it still allows us to issue accounts. So that means that if you're a European crypto business, you can come to us. We can actually give you an IBAN account where your clients can deposit, say, euros into, and then you can trade that into Bitcoin, Ethereum, stablecoins. Our client base is typically the smaller brokers, small to mid-size. That also means that we see a lot of what's happening with, you can say, the names that are probably smaller than the ones represented here. So we definitely see that there's a lot of smaller brokers out there. Also, flow that's not captured by the big blockchain analytics companies, right? So you can see that there's a lot of smaller brokers who predominantly just allows people to buy crypto, typically stable coins, that is then sent on to the larger exchanges because they allow clients to do local purchases, right? Bank transfers. So that's some of the things we enable our clients to do. And I think that's also, it ties in with why you see that Danes are predominantly trading on international exchanges. So I definitely think that the murky tax regulation, which is a lot better now, but it hasn't just been bad, it's been unpredictable. So you actually didn't know what you were supposed to pay in taxes if you earned money on crypto in Denmark for a long time. But also the fact that there were no strong local business. We had Coinify for a long time, but they focused more and more on merchant solutions and checkout solutions. So we didn't have that strong brand, and we didn't support local payment schemes. We had mobile pay in Denmark, Norway had Vipps, Sweden has Swish, and I think they opened up for their terms of service to buy crypto a lot earlier than mobile pay. That also meant that the primary Danish way for Danes to buy goods and services online, and their most trusted way of paying, it was not supported by any Danish broker, basically, right? So there wasn't a lot of local businesses for Danes to rally around when it comes to buying cryptocurrencies. And I think that's why a lot has gone to Coinbase or Binance or something like that. So yeah, banking is still a big problem. We can see that there's still a massive demand for it. And especially for the small to medium companies, they're still challenged by this.
And then we should move to Iceland. Gulli, this is the first time you are participating in this survey and this week. But as I understand, there has been some surveys before in 2022 or something, and the level is the same. And this is the first time that you can compare Iceland with other countries. Does it give you any type of insight, and are you surprised, or does it confirm your views?
Well, it's a good question because I don't know if you guys on the panel or the audience saw the event from 2 days ago, but we had a similar surveys made by the Central Bank of Iceland 3 years ago, and the finding was completely identical about the total adoption rate. It was 8.7% of the population who own crypto. So that's interesting because I believe definitely the discussions has been proved and the public appearance has been improving. Maybe one of the reasons why it hasn't grown is because like most countries in the world, we had higher interest rates and we have substantially higher real rates as well. So for those who want to buy like non-yielding assets like Bitcoin or even other cryptocurrencies, they have to compete with 4 or 5% real rates, which is substantially high. But I found it interesting. I would expect us to get further, but maybe we were a little bit further ahead because we actually launched cryptocurrency here. I think it was like 7, 8 years ago, which was actually distributed to every 18-year-olds and older in the country. So that kind of ignited a little like crypto boom. And the interesting thing that this was the same time that we had those great capital controls. So we really didn't have free flow of money. So that made the timing really interesting as well, because then the people saw there was technology which could enable the population to transact cross borders without using the local banks and without using normal currencies. Although crypto was very young then, I think Bitcoin costs probably like a few $100s. So a lot of things has changed. But we feel the discussion is improving, although we are not maybe seeing the highest adoption rate in Scandinavia. But I think things are getting better. But maybe nothing much within the last 3 years. But we are optimistic for the futures, though.
The story you are referring to is the Aurora coin, isn't it?
Yeah.
That was someone perhaps should write that story. It's, if we're talking about the history of coins and tokens. But isn't it also so that you were sort of a heaven regarding mining for some time, but it has been more restricted and more critical from the authority side in the last couple of years?
Yeah. We had a substantial mining operation, especially based on the scale of the economy and the population. I think the story was that we had like 1% of the Bitcoin hash rate at one time. That was the time that we had some abundant energy, some excess energy from the power plants, from geothermal and hydro. Then with the rise of AI and data center capacity, there's been a lot of more competition of that. So, and we haven't been up to speed creating more energy to fulfill that need. So prices has come up, and some of the mining companies has scaled down, and we currently have way less than 1% of the Bitcoin hash rate for sure. But we still have a lot of data centers, but there's a lot of more competition of the energy than we had before.
Okay, we will quite soon move to another panel, but one question, if you are able to answer shortly on this, is this just an innovation curve that is moving differently in the different countries, like early movers, like supported by local brokerage and local exchanges, information, PR, media, tax? What is the main explanation, and what could the other countries learn from this? Can we start with you, Torbjørn? That was a large question, I know it.
That's a large question. So basically what drives the growth? I think it's all the factors. I think you can't single it down to one, because it's like a multiplicative number. Like if you multiply a lot of numbers, if just one of those are zero, the whole number becomes zero. And you can't easily attribute to one component, which is the most important, because it's not additive. You can have a great public awareness, but if you have a terrible tax situation, you'll have zero adoption. So I think it's the full package. And yeah.
Jonas?
Yeah, I have to agree on that. And I think, of course, the one thing that we follow very closely, and of course it's very positive, of course, the public perception, right? And if you like it or not, a lot of the public, of course, opinions are coming from the US, right? And now that the political shift has happened there, if you like it or not, it will effectively, the spillovers will be felt in the Europe and in the Nordics. And then, of course, we at the certain point we see a trigger point where you are becoming from minority to majority with your opinions about crypto, right? And I think that has happened already in the US. It hasn't really happened in the Nordics yet, but probably in a few years, if the market goes, and especially if the US leads the way, I think that's the way how the people's minds and behavior will also follow that change.
What do you think then, Simon?
Yeah, I agree with the previous points. I think the wheels are in motion in all the Nordic countries. Some countries have more favorable tax situations, more favorable banking. Some have more kind of public awareness, and you can say crypto. I don't want to say influencers, but public crypto people. And But you can see in the numbers, everything is moving in the same direction roughly, and I only think that's going to continue. Again, as Torbjørn said earlier, if we see an actual full-on bull run, that typically tends to draw in much more interest from retail buyers of crypto.
And then you, Gulli, what do you think? You are unmuted.
Yeah, sorry about that. Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. What do you think moving ahead would be the most drivers should we learn from the other countries, or are we only on the same track, more or less, with different tempos?
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, I'm excited to share this result with the media next week and make the most out of it, because I mean, Icelanders can be innovators, but they also, tend to track other countries, and we like to make a sample of what's happening out in the world, what the BlackRock is doing, and how people are talking about crypto as an asset class, talking about crypto as a technology revolution. So we are always trying to find these things, and I think the addition from this survey is just a great add to that discussion. So definitely make use of that.
What do you think then, Philip? How can Sweden be a winner in 1 year?
I think that's like a big part in actually attracting new users, especially from like the age bracket of 40 and above. Will help a lot with like we saw the new approved spot ETFs in the US from last year. Crypto having a bigger place in the politics in the US and also in the European Union. And just like the acceptance from larger traditional finance players, that's very important. That's the kind of headlines that resonates with people that are not following the crypto space right now and maybe hesitating and not having enough trust. And I think that's local players in the Nordics will have a big advantage of creating that trust, similar to the trust especially that age bracket has in the traditional finance and their banks today.
The reason why I haven't asked that question to Sophia and Matthias right now is because they are going to be a part also of the next panel. But thank you very much for Torbjørn, Jonas, Simon, Gulli, and Philip. And then we will move quite quickly to the next phase. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rat.
Thank you.
Yes, I think we are the ones that we thought should be part of this discussion, but maybe, and we will also probably then also include Magnus and Vetle. But the core topic here is then more of the society side. We have talked to industry players, and of course, everybody in this industry is sort of both. But let us start with you, Erik, because you are representing a branch which is Blockchain Sweden. It started in November last year, and the first question could be why and what is Blockchain Sweden? Why did you start?
Yes, so the reasons I guess are shown in your data. So Sweden is falling behind, and the reasons for that is I've been in the industry since 2016-17, and Sweden has gotten worse, I'd say. We started a consultancy back then, focused on blockchain, and we got invited to the bank. We were sitting there, and they had some extra higher up there, but then we got the bank account. Today, if you start a consultancy and say that your main customers are crypto companies, you won't get a bank account, or it will be very hard for you. And then we've also seen our financial authority which we see are like somewhat of the root cause of this, just being openly skeptical, being out in the media, talking bad about the industry. And that influences how the banks think and how generally authorities think. And so that was the backdrop why we wanted to start it, to improve the situation. And so we are Now it's growing fast. I think we're 14 or 15 member companies, whereas 11 of those are crypto companies. Then we have some advisory also. So it can be law firms, it can be, we have a communication firms that help us. And so, for example, just 2 days ago, we had a seminar in the Swedish Parliament where some parliamentarians were there, and also the industry. And thankfully, the politicians they are optimistic, or they had a quite neutral stance. And we come there and tell them the challenges. They are really listening, and they also, maybe thanks to the Draghi report, they are concerned about innovation in Europe and especially Sweden also. So they listen to us, and so we have some good action points, and hopefully the next year the numbers from Sweden will be better.
Maybe you could follow up, Jakob, because you are representing a blockchain organization that has been there for several years, but with a different twist, because you have been focusing on maybe creating meeting places and things like that. How has that changed the perception of the blockchain and crypto in Denmark? You are muted.
There we go. I think overall we started as a community for the builders, right? So we spent a lot of time on really doing things that was more related to people building something, getting a bank account. And I mean, we tried to get a little bit outside and be vocal about the public opinion, but we didn't, to be honest, didn't really want to take the fight because it was just too much bad media. But we actually started doing something a couple of years ago. So as the example, as Eric is doing, that's what we actually started, I would say, a couple of years ago. And I think this is now reflected in the numbers as well. So we have a lot of engagement with public elected. We are as well doing a 150 people attending conference at the parliament in May. So I mean, we really have that dialogue, and I think reflecting on the Danish numbers, I think that this is a big part of it, right? Now we're actually talking about what is blockchain, right? Like what can we use blockchain in a very positive manner. So I really see this dialogue, like things we're having here, but as well being a lot more vocal in media, not hiding away, but actually taking the time to educate is a big part of the numbers that we're seeing in this report and in general.
I wasn't good enough to present the new players in this panel, so I welcome you, Nikolai, and just a short explanation on who you are and your history is in the crypto industry, and you are now working in the traditional bank, DNB. So how do you view the different views about crypto in the startup compared to a traditional bank?
It's a large difference. I think coming from the banking sector, you already have a very profitable business model that obviously you want to protect. So there's much less eagerness to radically innovate the space. But at the same time, we are, investing products are a core part of our product offering, and I think that's sort of where crypto are today. It's becoming an increasingly natural part of an investment portfolio for our customers, especially the young ones, or I guess semi-young, beneath 40 from what your data suggests. So it's definitely something that we're looking at quite closely and following the development. Also, I think at least in the Nordics, we've seen mostly retail engagement within the crypto space, but internationally we've seen a lot of interest from institutional players as well, and that's been increasing over the past few years. So there's definitely a lot happening on that space as well. And I think we sort of saw a really large shift last year. I've been working in the banking sector now for 3 years, since 2022. And I think last year, after the ETF launched, we saw a big shift in the sort of sentiment within banks that, okay, this is now more accepted. It's part of the whole institutional investment universe. And with the regulation now, that's a part of the EU as well, and it will come to Norway, I guess, probably this year. A lot has changed on the sentiment.
Just one follow-up question to you. We have been talking that maybe traditional finance or TradFi and fintech and crypto is merging or moving together. Do you see that or happening, or what do you think?
Yeah, it's a bit hard to tell. I think if we're looking down towards Europe, there is quite a lot of banks who have already offered crypto services. I think I have a list with at least 30 plus banks that have crypto products live in the market today, and surprisingly, many of them offer products and services towards retail clients. I think the question that sort of remains to be seen is whether the retail customer actually prefers to do this through banking, because regular crypto investors have become very used to trading through crypto services, and with banks entering the space, I mean, typically they might be more expensive. So yeah, I think it will be really interesting to see how this market turns out, and sort of what will be the difference between the product offerings between banks and fintechs and crypto companies. I would say though, we do have the ETFs offered through DNB, and those have been available for a long time. But as your numbers suggested, there are very few people in Norway who's actually interested in those products compared to buying the underlying. So that's interesting to see, at least compared to other countries like Sweden, where there's a lot of appetite for ETPs and ETFs.
Magnus, you have something to add to the discussion. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, thank you, Morten. And like Nikolai said, one thing is, call it the core product offering side from a bank. That's one thing, and that can vary a lot. Even though it can be ETFs, it can be safe storage, custodian services, it can be actually purchasing, selling, trading crypto of top 5 or top 100 for that matter of sake. It can be a very wide mix, but a part of this one is also building for the whole of the ecosystem of the existing clients and new clients of customers who comes with funds that has source of origin from crypto, of the core product offerings today. And this is why Eric is nodding there, because Sweden, among others, is one of the countries who has struggled a lot with this one. So in this matter, I think we have a good example, and I would also like to give credit towards DNB in Norway, how they have acted, and also other banks like SpareBank 1 and other in Norway who has been willing to invest in this over time. If you mentioned the example, like you said, Morten, yourself, Nikolai comes from one of the old OG exchanges in Norway, Kaupang, which is now into the K33 group. But still, they hire in a person like Nikolai, who is highly skilled on all levels, and add the knowledge that is needed within the bank. And I think that's the clear mantra, what we see here, that we need much more of, call it, cross industry. If we point out towards industry, traditional bank and core crypto, that we need to mix these competences in towards it in order to be able to grow the landscape further. So just to end the point there by an example, I am now just about to establish and go live with a new project, and I can reveal that much, that we will do consulting, compliance, and that part, but we'll also touch crypto. So we have applied in a certain bank, not mentioning it, but we receive a bank account there because we said, yes, we will touch crypto also, and that took us less than a week in Norway to get through the system. So this exemplifies even more. Yes, they asked question. We had a follow-up with the case handler who asked the extended question, what type of crypto, what are you doing? We explained this one, no further question at all, compared to just putting you into a corner saying, no, we will not touch you, and spend months on it. So that's also part of the ecosystem that is very important in order to grow, because it's not only me who runs a startup, but it will be other companies like the large industry players who comes and touch more and more crypto. We have seen this one, and then you as the bank needs to be ready. So I think that's also the importance of the whole ecosystem, that we need to collaborate even more together in some matter.
There are several barriers here mentioned. We have the tax, we have the regulation, we have the mining challenge, at least according to politicians, and we have the banking problem. So there are several barriers. But we also have this perception, maybe in the public eye, that these are crooks that are in this industry. So here we have 8 crooks, and in 10 years we will have 6.4 million crooks in the Nordics. Matthias, you are digging into some type of that kind of how much how far behind is this industry? Is it still a problem that things are being not that compliant or whatever? And how is it compared to other industries? I mean, there are also fiat crooks and gold crooks, if you understand.
Yeah, I'm sure there's loads of different types of crooks running around here. And this is an industry like many others. Obviously, it's in various ways it's completely different than others. But essentially, you can use tools for good and for bad, and crypto is not different. The reason why criminals use crypto is the same reason why other people use crypto. Think about stable coins. It's probably the easiest, fastest, and cheapest way to transfer money across the globe instantly. And it also attracts a lot of illicit activity. There is this perception that crypto is used by criminals exclusively, even, that it just finances bad people, drug sales, child pornography, and so on. What we do at Chainalysis and other analytic companies do so as well. We label illicit activity whenever we find it. And when you look at the entirety of all transactional activity from last year, we just released our crypto crime report, which is a really good read. When we look into all the illicit activity, we find constantly over the years that only 1%, less than 1% of all the transactional activity is illicit activity, which means 99% of all the transactions are not associated with illicit activity, which is, compared to your fiat crooks, a very low number. Of course, it doesn't include each and every type of illicit usage of cryptocurrency. We are looking at, let's say, crypto native illicit activity, for example, hacks, ransomwares, payments into darknet markets, sanctioned activity, counter-terrorist financing activities. So the one thing that I would say is that crypto is not only used in those crypto native crimes, but it also spills over into real world crime that is essentially happening on the street paid with crypto. That part is not included in our statistics. And we always learn more going forwards what sort of activity is actually illicit. So at the moment, we're standing at like 0.2% roughly, but given that we learn more, we'll end up with a figure below 1%, which is really small.
Thank you for that, for illuminating that question. I'm also thinking about the language in this industry. I mean, of course, when it comes to whatever technology, people start talking about the technology, and after some years when people are using it, they talk about phones or email, not about the technology. But in this industry, we talk about blockchain, we talk about crypto. Some are talking about Bitcoin and not crypto, and some are talking about Web3. And is this making this industry hard to understand, both for politicians and decision makers? What do you think, Sophia?
I mean, I've had some crazy experiences where I've been on stage and given a very 101 explanation of what Web3 is or how blockchain works. And then someone who's been in the IT industry for 11 years can come up to me afterwards and was like, aha, so it's basically working like that. Okay, it's not a scam. It's not only criminals using this. And for me, that happening every time, being invited to the spaces that were not usually present, like more general conferences or meeting rooms, where this is just like a topic that they need to bring up because it was in the media 2 weeks ago and a part of the hype cycle, I would say. But once you go deeper in it and you try, because people also ask, how can I get a part of it? How can I become a part of this and touch the tech and meet the people who are building this? You sometimes give a suggestion where it's like, okay, download Telegram, Discord, be present on X. And then you see this language, which is way far from the traditional language we do use daily. So there are different barriers, but it depends on where in the industry you are. If you're a tech builder or a community member utilizing this technology or doing the marketing part, and who you want to meet. As it came, as this survey also showed, there are more people under an age of 40 that owns crypto than equity in Norway. These are also people that are on social media platforms where we talk about this more freely and openly and share ideas and use cases. So it's about being present out there as well. So that's more of the commercial part, sort of, where we talk about the utilities of the different projects or the technology itself, which is further away from the banking or traditional conversations that are also happening.
What do you think about this question, Vetle? And of course, the survey that you guys are doing, it is focused on crypto as an investment vehicle. There's no questions about whether you can use it to buy groceries or whatever. And you have earlier done also some industry reports about different kinds of use cases. Do you have any thoughts about this topical problem, Web3, crypto, Bitcoin, blockchain?
Yeah, it might be a sense of like jargon overload, and it might feel like it's very difficult to learn what all of this is all about. So maybe we can more effectively communicate, because if you look at this in a very principled manner, it's actually quite easy to explain what this is. These are global assets that anyone can interact with. You can send it to anyone anywhere in the world, and you can interact with anyone anywhere in the world using this technology. And that's the gist of what it is, a non-exclusive form of asset or network. So yeah, but that's what the jargon is trying to also convey. But I think that the ownership numbers we are seeing in the Nordics and the growth we are seeing sort of highlights that people are gradually becoming more aware of what this is. And then like Web3 or interacting in DeFi is not for everyone. Like you have tokenized initiatives from BlackRock and Franklin Templeton, but that is, I guess, to secure some capital from current crypto holders who want to diversify. So they are tapping into this market to also expand their reach within the crypto economy. But then you have investors who understand what Bitcoin is, what Ethereum is, or what any other cryptocurrency is, like on a higher level, but they don't have either capacity or willingness to invest in spot markets. So they are completely satisfied by just investing in exchange traded products. So it's various needs and wants depending on who you are.
Can I just add, sorry, Morten, just an anecdote to that. From Davos this year, where we hosted several panels, and among others, Matthias was also there. It was one person in the audience who comes from what is normally referred to as, call it TradFi, as i.e. a banker in itself. And like he said, I am into finance, hence that's why I'm also covering crypto, because this is finance. This is finance, what we're talking about. Also with regards to what we see in the what we heard from the other panel regarding stablecoins specifically, that is also linked towards a whole other, call it, area of rather hyper volatility and speculations, that are actually something that finance is using for a utility purpose of a logic sense, where also banks and others are coming in. And I also know that Matthias has some views on that side there.
Maybe ask Nikolai first, because you are in a traditional bank, and do you see these things happening on the stablecoin side? Someone are saying that it is the killer app in crypto, but other people are saying, well, it's mainly fiat, sort of. What is your view of this, Nikolai? And are banks moving into this way of payments and transferring money?
Yeah, I mean, this is a topic that's catching a lot of our attention recently, and we've been having conversations with other banks as well, trying to think about how this space will turn out. I think the sort of question that we as banks are thinking about mostly is what will be the roles of stablecoin compared to wholesale CBDC and tokenized bank deposits. Today, the sort of large transactions between financial institutions are mostly done in wholesale CBDC, or not the wholesale CBDC, but they are done in central bank reserves. And the question is whether stablecoin can take some or all of that transaction amount. So we're trying to think about how this space will turn out. We think that stablecoin might definitely take a part of retail international payments. It could also take a part for smaller payments for corporates. But yeah, it is very interesting to see what can happen. And I mean, when you look at what recently happened in the US, it definitely, with the promotion, I guess, of stablecoin friendly regulation over there, it will definitely make stablecoin more attractive for banks in the US. So yeah, we'll have to see how it turns out. I think right now there is also a rush to market in the EU for stablecoins. I think more than 99% of transaction volumes are in dollars today, while in traditional fiat currency you have, depending on the metric, there's about 20% of the transaction volume with fiat is in euro. So I think there's a huge opportunity for euro stablecoins, and there's definitely a lot of people thinking that at these times. I think I read a list with 15 different companies or groups trying to take the euro stablecoin market already. There's definitely a lot more coming to try to capture that market, including some banks. You already have Banking Circle and SocGen who has entered the market, and for sure there will be more European banks coming into the stablecoin market now quite soon. And also in the US, I think we'll see we'll definitely see some banks coming into the space either this year or next year.
Matthias, you have also something to add regarding stablecoins.
Regarding your question, is stablecoins killer use case of crypto, yes or no? I mean, from my perspective, the answer is a clear yes. We've got like roughly 2.7 trillion market capitalization in crypto. Roughly 60%, 61% is in Bitcoin. A tiny amount is in stablecoins. But when you look at transactional activity, it's just the opposite. So you've got roughly 10% of transactions in Bitcoin and more than 60%, between 50 and 60% and overall transactions are on stablecoins. So there is loads of activity in stablecoins. It's clearly the use case for crypto. And it's also the use really, really popular when it comes to illicit activity. Since 2022, we see a rise in stablecoin usage in illicit activity because it's just the best way to transfer funds. Last year, 63% of all the transactions in the realm of illicit activity have been made in stablecoins. That's scam, hacks, and so on. Ransomwares are still paid in Bitcoin, so it depends on the type of fraud. But 63% were paid in stablecoins. And this is great news for law enforcement because these transactions are traceable. There are means to try to obfuscate, transactional activity, but we constantly evolve our blockchain analytics technology, and it gives law enforcement just an incredible ability to track funds. And even more so, it gives stablecoin issuers, centralized stablecoin issuers, the possibility to actually freeze funds whenever they have got the evidence needed to determine whether or not funds have been stolen, for example. So stablecoins give law enforcement the ability to actually freeze ill-gotten gains, which is just incredible compared to fiat currencies.
Jakob, you also wanted to add something here.
Yeah, I think it's like from our perspective, representing the industry, it's really, really, really good to see these numbers that we see a lot of people trading it, but trading is just how you actually get capital within the industry, right? And I really just want to highlight that we had example this week as well. There's a lot of companies using blockchain, not just for TradFi and stablecoin. We had the example of SAP who are doing something, Maersk are doing it. We see carbon credit. We see energy trading. So I just want to highlight as well, like when we see these numbers, we of course see a confidence in blockchain as a trading, but as well we see it within the industry. And I just, as an industry organization, really want to highlight that we are seeing a lot more larger enterprises. Previously, it was NFT. I would say a lot of consumer-driven adoption in general with the usage of blockchain. But right now we see, which is the important thing, is we see industry are basically adopting the technology. So really just want to highlight that we see a lot of larger company using it. they just don't need to mention it, right? It's just a tech infrastructure. So a lot of people are actually using the technology out there, but don't really have a reason to say it, right? Why should you state you're using internet? Why should you state you're using cloud service? So I just want to highlight all the positive things that we're seeing. People just building something which is not related to transactions, as the examples that we're hearing right now.
Yes, so in principle, we could create a lot of weeks, like the future of money, the future of investment, the future of the internet, the future of business. Maybe we'll do that. We will see how this adoption things are moving ahead. And we will then wrap up this week. And thank you very, very much for being so open. The whole industry getting together and sharing insight and sharing your opinions of the time behind us and also of the future. Regarding how can you follow up these things, we have a lot of discussions in LinkedIn Live, which would be fun to look into. Case 33, which has been doing this research for several years. They also do a lot of other types of research, and of course they will share the servers for both for media, for companies, and for users. And I will remind you also of this event, Nordic Blockchain Conference in June, where then it is expected that maybe 1,000 people will be there. The first time it is in Stockholm. It has been in Copenhagen for a lot of years. And also on the couple different platforms, you can go in deeper. You can find all the presentations, the recordings and news on a landing page, which is called Crypto Adoption 2025. And several have also mentioned the event that we had some weeks ago about diversity in crypto. And if you want to follow one of our newsletters to learn more about it and more going deeply in what is happening, it would be next.kuiper.io. So please also thank you to the companies that has been supported the survey and the event. Safello, Kvarn, Viska, January, and Chainalysis. And thanks all to all the people that have been following us. There has been thousands, so that is really, really fun. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.